Hey everybody, my name is Skye. This is Kiko. We are doing the ups and downs of Raw podcast today. We are talking about self-understanding and the secret to a joyful raw vegan life. Hey Kiko. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I had our video going on, so I just closed. Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, Skye. I'm so happy to be back. So I was just eating persimmon, kaki.
Oh, that's why you call. I thought you said a cookie. Okay, I see. So persimmon, like you've nailed it. Obviously, the joy to a raw vegan life. You've got your persimmon. You've been in a hot spring
And sauna. Yeah, I just came out of sauna.
or sauna.
And yeah, sauna, right? I call it sauna. Yeah. So yeah, persimmon is all over now. It's in season, so I'm just taking advantage. And yeah, I'm really happy to be back. And yeah, today's topic, right? The secret to a joyful raw vegan life.
Essentially, this is the secret to being raw. If you are happy, you will stay doing what you're doing. If you are miserable, you will not stay being raw.
I don't know. I think I was miserable, and because of raw vegan, I don't know. I feel like I was enlightened eating raw vegan diet. That I saw the light and darkness, and I said, no, I don't want to stay in this heavy place, dark place. And I always wanted to go to lighter place to have this lifestyle.
But you self-sabotaged, right? So you're saying that when I say that you have to be happy to stay on it, is you went through periods where you weren't completely raw and you were having wine again and you were eating out at all restaurants.
Right.
So I see this happen all the time, as in like your brain will find a way to not suffer. So if you are feeling not good on the lifestyle, you will not stay on it. Sure, you can stay on it for a while, but your brain will start questioning if you don't feel good. And this is why I think it's so important to find your self-understanding and joy, so that because before, what I hear often is, I think people are having raw, and then if it's not serving them, you seek, because that's what, you're not getting enough dopamine. The brain seeks, and your plan is to just include some pumpkin or some quinoa. People say that's what they were thinking, and before they know it, as you said, they're out at restaurants, they're having wine, they're having bread, they're having all, usually still vegan. And that is the way the brain works. And I do think the only way for people to stay on raw is to find what works and gives you joy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think it's easy to said than done, and everyone's journey is different, right? So
For
like
sure.
I shared offline with you, Skye, that you know understanding ourselves. That, I mean, today's topic, I wanted to what I wanted to focus on was self-understanding. But how do you understand it yourself? I think for me, it's through my own experience.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I'm going through right now. So, yeah, so I am working. I have done so many different kind of jobs. I, I'm the kind of person who picks up the work very fast, but I get bored easily. I need challenge all the time. So now, currently, I'm doing interpretation and guide work, and I love this job because I'm dealing with people, and not every single time is so different. So it is challenging in a way, but it's very interesting. I love people. I love learning about each person because not a single person is the same. We could stereotype. Like, for example, I'm Japanese. I was born and raised here in Japan, but I am nothing like Japanese, like behavior wise. But inside, I'm very Japanese. So I'm just sharing this to say that each person is so different, and understanding yourself, like you have to try in your life. And I think a lot of people nowadays are so scared of trying because the information is online, right? Like you can read up, you can you can, read up everything. You can ask ChatGPT and you get your answer. So a lot of people can just stay home and feel like they can experience, like, for example, traveling. You can just look at, free YouTube video on travel vlog, and you feel like you have visited there, but it's nothing like it when you do it yourself, interacting
Yeah.
with people locally, meeting your friends face to face, eating the local fruits. I eat
Yeah.
bananas from Philippines, but it's nothing like it if I were to eat it local. If I were to eat it in Philippines, it tastes completely different. So I wanted to focus on the experience today.
Yeah, and I think what is really important is that's what you're learning about yourself. And everybody has to own, as you're saying, is you can say, I've started to feel low energy. Chat GTP, what is this? And you'll get an answer, and you'll read up on it, and you go into podcasts, and you end up spending your whole time researching a problem. And I find that mindset that people have done, especially who come to this lifestyle who are chronically sick, is their brain is very wired to look at a problem, like consistently seek out a problem without even knowing. And what I brought up, I was interested on a live before, was the people I see the most successful on their raw lifestyle and their journey and the most happiest have created their own lifestyle, which isn't on ChatGTP, which isn't in a book, which is not that they want you to do it, but they want to inspire you. And I think a really great example of that is Lissa. Lissa does it different to everybody else. She's so happy. She's so content. And you have to understand is you're not meant to copy Lissa, but you're also meant to see how different what she does is. But she's so content, as in a raw lifestyle, right? Is because a lot of people think there's this optimal way of doing it. And now the problem that they've sourced out is they're not fitting in. And that's because the brain, when you've been sick, has been wired to problem seek consistently. And even if you solve the problem, there's always been another problem. So the brain will just keep finding problems. And what I noticed for me in success and staying well is to not focus on what I'm fixing as much as focus on creating a lifestyle consistently. But look, I don't want people to do my lifestyle. I want people to find their lifestyle. Like, for example, someone might live in, I don't know, New Jersey. I don't even know what that's like. And you can't worry about what people are doing in the Philippines or Japan or Australia. You have to be so real and be like, what do I have access to? And what I've found about like the traveling and the being around friends and the getting like overseas, that all came because I nailed being raw right where I am, like what the reality of it was, how much money I have, where can I walk to, where can I order? Because now my brain, when I travel, it doesn't actively seek like 20 restaurants and like all these fancy things. As soon as I get wherever I am, it does the same thing. It's like, where's the closest shop? How can I get there? Did I need to bring? And that like rinse and repeat of creating a lifestyle has kept me happy and out of what I did for 20, I could say 30 years, but when you're sick, you don't seek. Is for 20 years, my whole day consisted of seeking answers to problems. And we have to change that mindset to actually feel happiness, because otherwise you're just problem seeking.
Yeah, you know what? I would like to ask you while you were speaking, like how you deal with yourself, like, self-understanding, and it was definitely your journey to get to where you are now, and it's definitely a progress. I mean, you're in the process as well. Can you give me like a example of like if you have like a to if you can share like a recent thing, or it could be anything that I always, it helps me to understand what you're going through. Like I gave you some example, like what I went through. Do you have an example that you
So
went?
I had to finally be so real with myself. So a lot of what I did, and I see people do, is they tend to be like, I can't do this because of this, or this person doesn't do it, so I can't do it. And this book says this. And I finally had to be so real and be, there's so many clashing. Where am I? Like, what is the realism of what is actually possible right now? Like basically, what is the best outcome I can get right now, and not let any, I don't, anything that negative that comes in is not actually me.
What does that mean?
So if somebody says, Skye, your diet's crap, it's not doing anything for me, it's got nothing to do with me. Even if the person is the love of my life, that's what their brain has learned on their path. And I had to get to a real point where it's like I could stand in a room, and I had been. When you're in a psychiatric hospital, every person that walks past you is judging you like nothing else, like beyond. What they think is only an accumulation of their life. I had to be so real and say none of that matters, Skye. And nature really helps me with that. So being, like I was just saying on the live before, is being in a mirror is really still just an illusion because of the lighting and the mood and the memory that you bring to the mirror. But for so real is the only truly way I can heal was basically telling everybody else to get stuffed, to get lost. I don't care, because what they've done in their life, even if it was the greatest love of my life, I mean, they grew up in a different house. They had different experiences. You know, for their 5th birthday, they got all different things. How can I even think that what they have to say right now has anything to do with me being my best me? When we come together and create together and experience together, that's different. Like they're bringing half and I'm bringing half, but what they bring cannot impact me. And I had to be so real about that. To the point where people are like, but you just walk away. And if people like, I have family, it's like, imagine you loved yourself so much in the next 6 months that for the next 40 years, you were the best mother, the best sister, because you'd found yourself. And a lot of it is you have to tell people to get stuffed. You don't say it, but their thoughts, like you're like, what you do say is only coming from what you've learned. If you've never experienced 32 years of chronic illness, how can anything you say really relate to me?
Right. This is so true. Okay, I want to dig deeper into this, but okay, I want to just share before I dig deeper on what we are talking about. Just want to share. We have a green powder.
What
This
is that?
well, it doesn't say much. It just says it's just a green powder. So kale and all the
Right.
cruciferous veggies, and this is very popular. So anything packaged is usually never raw. It's processed, right? But I go to this because I am traveling with my client for a whole entire week, and I have like a small blender that I bring, with me, so I can do, chia seed powder and smoothies and so. But this is my lifesaver. Yesterday I couldn't get. Well, actually, I didn't have time to prepare a green smoothie this morning. So what I'll do is I'll just put it in the water, and this is why easily available, because Japan could be challenging to travel as a raw vegan, but greens are super important. We understand this is a huge, like super antioxidant drink. So you can find this anywhere in the supermarket. So if you're traveling, you can do this. And usually I would just mix it with, apples or pineapples, but.
And I think that's so, like, when I hear, this is an example, is when I hear you say all that, is if I'd been problem seeking or solving with my spare time, as in I can get myself flare-ups. My whole hobby in my spare time is what caused it, what's the problem, what's the problem, what's the problem. I tend to come at things like you saying that's a problem. I see the problem. All I could see there was, I'm so grateful you shared that. That's such great information. When you travel, you've got to do what you got to do, which works for you. But I do know what my mindset used to be like, and it was a problematic lens. And I'd created that myself. That was my problem. But most people don't know that that's the lens they're carrying, because what has got them to this journey is illness. And what I see is, unless that you start to see that no matter what anybody else says, you can pull a bit from it and it might help you, that when it comes to your health, we're not talking about what you want in your romantic lifestyle. I'm talking about when it comes to your health, the only thing that matters is that lens you create when you see the world. Because instead of finding all the amazing options, like that's such a great option when you're traveling, especially obviously in Japan, is you'll start to see all the problems in Japan. Like, oh, we can only have powder when I travel. Oh, I'm not going to do that. And you might be missing out on the greatest opportunity of your life. So it's all about that lens. And yes, Muhammad said they're kind of projecting their insecurities on you. They're 100% projecting, because that's all we do as humans, is we project what we know, and we
Right.
try and do our best, but we're not conscious that where it's all coming from. As I said, is what decisions you make today are completely impacted by even what you did as a 5-year-old on one day on your birthday. You've created all these memories, this persona, this view of the world. And even when you think you're trying to help somebody, unless that person is strong in what they're willing to do, is I can harm anybody and not even know it.
Yeah, and it's so true. But so theory, we understand. I think both of us understand. It's just a reflection of them, and people who are listening seems to be aware of this as well. That we should never take it personally, but we do. Most people do, even though we understand it is hurtful. So I think it's important to work. So self-understanding for me, it's through experiences, like what Skye went through. You've had experiences, so how to um, how to live your life in joy, right? You have some tricks for you to be more stable and more happy. So maybe
I wasn't going to say I don't think they're tricks. I think it was like, and I don't think I do care what people say. So I don't think I could be well if I did anymore. So no matter who loves me, they haven't spent the last 4 years around fresh food. They have no, I actually don't think what people say hurts me anymore. I think
okay.
what happens is someone really projected at me. Just say someone was outside here screaming at me like, Skye, you're a piece of crap, you're all of this. Is I actually might in the moment be shocked, but I
Right.
usually come inside and feel sad for them, which I don't like to sit in the sad energy, but I don't think about it in terms of me anymore. Like it's got
Right.
nothing. What they're even if they've said, Skye, you are all these horrible things, is I usually come inside and feel really sad that that person's going through so much that they've got just all these words spewing out. And I didn't used to be like that. I'm like completely different. I used to take on everything, like
Right.
everything every person said. But now and I don't like to sit in the sad space, but I definitely don't. I don't think it's got anything to do with me.
Right. So you did have the phase that you took it personally, right? So this was a journey for
When I
you.
was sick. No, only not raw, only when I was sick. When I was sick, everything everybody said was my problem and was me, and I felt it all. And then when I healed myself and that for a lot, people might say I'm not alone. I spent a lot of time alone. I still do by choice, and I always will, so that I feel this way. And that's each person's choice. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but I'm a parent. I'm like, I do believe it takes about 6 months to get into this pattern where you realize everything every person around you saying is about themselves. It's absolutely nothing to do with me. And that is how I was able to turn everything around in my life, because I was like, well, if it only matters what I do. And then I started to make these steps forward. But yeah, when people do get really upset, I usually come away and feel really sad for them, like
Mm-hmm.
that they're going through so much.
Right. So if this is someone like we don't know, it will be easier. So like, if someone is just passing, or, someone who barely knows. But I think we get hurt with people who are close, like close family member or friends, right? So when you change, I'm just giving an example of when you change your diet, a lot of people get um, offended, right? Or your grandma is making a meal for you and she's very upset that you are not eating, you're maybe disrespecting their culture, right?
I think that's your story though. So if that's what someone's experienced, anytime somebody like my niece, I was in the car and she goes, Auntie Skye, aren't you sad you can't eat like us? And then I turn around and all I say is, I won't be here. And I think as well, the decisions you make, because you are really unwell as well, it's about what you've gained. Like all I do is see, I think I've created this lifestyle of gain where all I see is what I've gained from something. So when somebody comes at me with, you're not eating this, I'm like, but look what I've gained. And I feel like I'm educating. I feel like it's an opportunity to educate the person. And do I think I changed their minds completely? Probably not. But I just don't see any of it. Like, even if I know that on Christmas Day, I'm eating very differently. And I think people probably do feel bad. I personally just made this peace with myself that I'm going to educate. And I don't know, I promise you, Kiko, to this point, I don't think I've had in the past 4.5 to 5 years ever felt bad. I feel sad when I clash with something or someone. But before that, I constantly just took things on. So it's probably just we have very different views of our self-understanding is what I'm thinking.
Oh, I'm trying to connect with the people who are listening because, um, I think it's rare that you feel this way. And I think a lot of people do struggle socially, right? So I don't, that example I gave, it's not mine. I'm just trying to see how we were able to get to this point of.
Sure. So I'm not sure about, I guess I can't connect to that because I don't feel it anymore. It's not in my consciousness. The only thing that's in my consciousness is if I show up somewhere, and my self-understanding is that person is so lucky to have me. Like I should be in bed or dead. And so if I show up and someone was mean, I would just feel sad for them that they cannot see how, like, I'm here for myself, I'm here for everybody else. And so when people I guess talk to me about, you know, and maybe I never say that raw food is for everybody, like, straight away as well. My biggest thing is to not focus on don't force yourself into that pain, because that's just, in a self-understanding respect, you're just creating more pain in your life. Is if any, I'm not afraid if my grandmother even at the time started to project on me, I would just walk out. And maybe it's just the self-understanding I've created, but definitely before that. But I now my self-understanding is I just don't stay in any of those situations.
Yeah, so that's one of I do think this is like a tips and tricks to stay well. So for me, like self-understanding is everyone's different. Some people prefer not to go through some experiences. For me, it's very important to go through some experiences myself. So like if other people are saying, this place was not so interesting, but I'm still, but I have to experience that place for me to give that opinion of, my own perspective.
Sure.
So um, I think to stay on, because this is a raw vegan channel, I think to stay on raw vegan, you know, okay, maybe not to be afraid of experiencing and failing, because, from failing, we learn. I mean, I always say when I'm going through a hard time, this is the greatest teaching. It might not be comfortable at that time, but it helps me so much to grow. So if I'm not actually, if I'm feeling comfortable all the time, it means that I'm not growing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like it's nice. Like I have a very comfortable life, and I don't have to do this job, but for me, it's important to experience in life, connect with people, and to serve when they need me. And if I can serve, it brings me a joy. So that's my calling, right? Especially part of being part of this podcast is that this is not my job, but I have I've gone through 21 years of raw vegan journey. I've got definitely ups and downs, and I've got quite a few experiences that I can share, that how I was able to get to this point. Like a lot of people say, like, Kiko, how do you have so much energy? Why are you so happy all the time? Like, and then usually I don't share about raw veganism, but I would, share what I eat. They can look at me when I eat. So it's part of answer to their question.
Sure. So I always think like when it comes to self-understanding is a huge part about finding it for myself. And I think when you finally found it, and even most of this year you've been fully raw, was when you act for me back when I went raw was just accepting reality as to where I actually am. And that's what you did, right? Is a lot of when you said you struggled was before you accepted that maybe I need a bit of medication, maybe I need a bit of, to do. And that's what I want people to do, is because there's these unrealistic, when you like self-understanding for yourself is like, to be my best self, I have to eat just apples or just watermelon or whatever. And if I'm not doing that, I'm still not myself. And then you start questioning, you're doing raw, is this raw enough? But wherever you're at, and you don't even have to be a vegan yet or vegetarian or whatever, if you are so real with yourself as to what is possible right now, it helps you not only achieve the first goal, but the next goal. So like I've spoken before in the past, like when I came off all the medication, yes, I was still smoking and having coffee, but I was very proud of myself for what I'd achieved. And in doing that, I then let go of, I think it was cigarettes, and then it was vaping, and then it was coffee, which I switched for a tea. And that all came off the back of being, so what is possible right now? Like where I'm at is what is like one goal I can possibly reach. And I think if you have that understanding, because it can be so overwhelming when you see people like myself and Kiko, and people make perceptions of us from watching it, and they think we've got it all right. And we try to be so for real, but they see people in the media and they think that they've got everything right, or even their bad days are right. What I still do to this day is to be in self-love, I have to be so real with where I'm at, because there's no point when I'm not real, I have a tendency, just say I eat quite dense raw foods at the moment, and just say I wanted to eat just fruit for the summer. I have to be so real with myself that it's not possible mentally and emotionally and long term to wake up and now just eat apples. Just say I want to do 3 weeks on apples. I know myself, I have to ease into that. What is the first thing I let go of to reach that goal? And using that mindset and really self-understanding about being really real with where you're at, it helps me consistently stay real for me. But that compass that I create is only for me. And you'll see any time in my life, the goals I want to reach are only for me, and they're not for anybody else. But I want people to, the first thing is not look at what you haven't done or can't do or your mistakes, but just own right where you're at, because I swear that was the key for me in reaching each little step along the way.
Yeah, a lot of people ask what is it for your health and happiness, and it cannot be one answer. Like,
True.
for me to get to this place, and I can say one big thing, but that might not be true for a certain period of time. So I think the important thing now, I feel, is that experience, like uh, not to be afraid of mistakes, because mistakes is where we learn, where we grow. If we are not uncomfortable, we are growing. The difference of people being happy, choose to be optimistic and happy, is that those are the people who learn from the experiences.
True.
And there are some people who prefer to just complain and be in the negative space, and which is okay. I have my family member, some of them I know how to have a little more space, because I need to protect my own happy
Yeah.
zone, and they are happy with their whatever. For me, like, from my glasses that we all say that we have a glasses, we have a color. I have pink color of glasses, so
I like it.
my world looks all pink. And from my perspective, some people's glasses are black, completely black, and they're happy, and it's okay. Before, I used to think that, oh, I want to, because they do ask me like, oh, I wish I could be like you, Kiko. Oh, we are different. How, and I try to give advice, and they're not happy. They don't want to change. So I never give my advice unless they ask me specifically what they're looking for from me, because I've realized that each person has their own journey and they're happy in their own way.
Yeah. But I think we all have to remember that when the person with the black glasses starts screaming at the person with the pink glasses, you have to remember what lens they're looking at you through. That's like a really good way to see it, is if somebody starts being like, you're not getting all these nutrients, you're a bad person because you can't eat what we're eating or whatever it is. Remember, do you want to go over and jump over and start staring behind those black glasses? And hopefully, if you've been working on yourself and owning your goals, and you know how hard it is to get the pink glasses, you won't want to go back, and you'll just feel sad. I don't even like that I feel sad. It just comes up that it's quite sad that a person is got so many emotions that now they're vomiting them out at people, which really it's nothing to do with you, because you get to go home and sit in your rose-colored glasses, like your garden, whatever you've created for yourself. But I also, when it comes to the self-understanding, is the more you create your own life and you work hard at something, the more you won't want to let it go. It's like, anything we work hard of, we don't want to let go of. If everything came easy, it's just a fleeting moment. And is that not how the universe sets it up when people like, it's so hard to go raw? It is, because your health is worth the work. And when you understand that, and the other thing people shouldn't think is that you're going to wake up, go raw, exercise daily, you're going to, do the meditations, just pick one thing, and work hard at it. And when you achieve it, be like, I did it. I can do this. I can get these steps forward. And then I want you to make another decision. It might be one raw meal a day, and only you know what it feels like to achieve that and go through it day after day and feel the ups and downs of that and reach it. No one can feel, that the dark times mean that you're like, I feel so good. I did this for me. What more can I do? I'm now going to meditate. And I know I can meditate because I achieved my first goal. And then when someone comes at you and they're like, you're doing it wrong, in your mind, you can go, well, that person doesn't really know how hard I've worked and understood myself. I'm not letting go of this. But if we think that we can just jump into something and like keep our head above water, I'm going to do this. And if it fails, if someone's given me the wrong task, it doesn't work like that. None of life works like that. It's about you and your understanding for yourself. And as I said, it may not even be raw. You may first want to get vegetarian or even cut out alcohol or processed food, but only you sit with you consistently. And then when someone says, have a drink, you know that for 6 months, every day you've had to sit through the emotions. You're not going to have the drink, but if you said, I'm going to not drink, meditate, do this, it's all too much. And so when something conflicting comes up, and that's why I had to, when I heal myself, be so real. Like so real. What is actually possible? Instead of reading books that people do, that was possible for them. What can you do, Skye?
Yeah, working as a coach, I am every time I coach someone, I'm impressed how optimistic people are when it comes to their setting their goals. So, one of the best way people improve their life is through the coaching is accountability partner. So I set myself as accountable as with my client. So let's do a game. Okay, so let's think about, okay, what's your goal, right? And it might be, oh, I want to be able to, I'm so weak now, so I can't even walk outside. I can only go to toilet to get up. But my goal is to be able to hike in the mountain, the tallest mountain in Japan, let's say, okay? So that's not possible to do, realistically speaking, not tomorrow, not day after tomorrow, maybe not in a week, right? So I will do a little game with my clients, and they always come up with big goals. And I say, no, no, no. We have to give candy in our brain, meaning that if you put such a high goal, um, we are gonna fail. If we fail, we feel so bad, so we just stay on where we are. But if you give a bit of candy, let's say, okay, I don't know, tomorrow, that was very random. So like the reason, let's say, that I can only go to toilet is because I'm depressed, let's say.
Yep.
And tomorrow I'm gonna wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and this person wakes up at 10 o'clock a.m. And 6 o'clock is far fetched. And I say, okay, let's say you're waking up after 10 o'clock. Let's say 9:59 tomorrow. That's a huge, you know, it's
Yep.
it's a huge progress for this person. And then they come back so happy next day that I woke up at 9. And then that incrementation is so important. And I cannot tell, like, this accountability partner as a coach works super, super well. And you have to be very comfortable. So that's part of self-understanding as well.
That is, to me, it's the basis. So what people don't understand is we've come from being young and being like, you want to finish school, grow up and be a firefighter, right? But what actually becoming the firefighter is, and getting to that point, is the journey before becoming the firefighter. The point that you got up early to go to school every day, the point that you made, good friends, that you studied, that you became athletic. It's all the journey. And what people don't understand is, so I'm saying, you want to be a raw vegan, but at the moment eating processed foods, meats, you're an alcoholic, is the reason you need to learn to stop processed food, or you just stop the alcohol and you need to learn the work, is once you become a raw vegan, you still apply the same principles every day. So just say, the people look at us and they think we've reached the goal, we're living the optimal, but you just set new goals. So there's no end to this. It's called life. So, and I never worked this out. I was always like, I want to become, more athletic. And then once you're running and you are doing the 5Ks, you want to do 6Ks. So you've got to set new goals. And this never ends. And the reason I can set the goals for the 5 and 6Ks is because I promise everybody here, because of the work I did as the alcoholic, because of the triumphs I made to become a raw foodist. The ones that you do step by step are the reasons they never stop. This is life. This is about people stopping wanting a goal and actually learning the process of the goal. And when you realize that's what entire life is like, you're accepting it's self-understanding, it's self-awareness, and it's just we've been programmed wrong. We've been programmed, I've got a sore knee, I want no pain, but I promise as soon as that pain's gone, you've got a myriad of other problems you want to solve. When you consistently have little goals, but the ones you start with are the reason to this day I can still do my goals, because I know that work. But no one will know it except for you, and that's why you have to learn to understand you. Like, what makes you tick? What will make you set your alarm an hour early? And then usually what happens is, why people never keep doing it is because they're like, this was so hard. I can't even imagine being a raw vegan. You have to learn to be that person right there before you can learn to be the person that gets up at 8 a.m. And then how confident you get because you achieve your goals is the reason you keep going all the way to vegetarian and whole food and raw vegan. And then when you're raw vegan, you want to do days where you do just fruit. And the reason you can do that is because you've learnt tools at your rock bottom or your turning moment. But you can't skip a level, guys. You have to show up for you. So that that's how my life works now. I hit everything with reality. Like, I would love to, at the next bundle or whatever, have 5 ebooks to hand out. Is that a reality? No, Skye. What in your time and your reality can you do? And a lot of people probably think doing 1 or 2 ebooks is a huge accomplishment, and it is, but only because at my rock bottom I learnt my limits and what is possible and what I'm willing to give out to people and still maintain myself. But we have to all learn, understand ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit, I'm just getting a bit chilly, so I
You
wear
that warmth from the sauna is all calming back down.
Yeah, it's coming down. Yeah. So, but we are evolving, right? Everyone, we might look the same, we might behave in certain way, but we are definitely changing every day, every second. To me, I'm learning every single day, and what might not have worked might work tomorrow. Like me at 20, let's say, I'm living now in Kyoto, and actually, we had a school trip when I was in high school. I was never interested in history. Like I thought it was, you know, like, I prefer going, I don't know, karaoke or play tennis with my friends, and that's what I did. We just we didn't visit the temples and just hang out with my friends. And now I love learning about histories and visiting those beautiful places. So me, I might look the same, I might behave the same, but it's different. So meaning that I have to, for me, it's important that I challenge myself every day. I work on myself every day, and that's part of my joy. And everyone's different, so you have to experience. And in this day of age, it's so easy to fix ourselves. Like, let's say, with through iPhones, one of the most popular app in Japan is take a photo, and that photo it has like a makeup feature, or it doesn't show your wrinkles, or like age spots. And I always felt very uncomfortable with that. And this app has been popular for like over 10 years in Japan. And I'm thinking, I mean, the filtered version, it's not me. I have age spots. I lived in Bahamas without making any makeup or, any sunblocks. And I mean, this age stuff that you see, it's part of me. I mean, I've had such a great life that it's all part of me. So, yeah, it's
I was
important
just
that you
gonna,
go through.
but also the point of life is to not die as well, right? So when you're doing what you're doing to survive, and in doing that, it means that you're going to live longer, which is the goal. And if you
Mm,
live longer, you're going to age, right? So essentially, the people that live the longest are winning the race of life. Yet
mhm,
people think they're supposed to hide it and be 12. What you can learn from a 70-year-old versus a 12-year-old is completely different.
mm.
That what we love about 12-year-olds is that naivety, that like that unexperienced. But when you sit with a 70-year-old, the lessons they teach is because they've survived what they have and got there. And that's what the 12-year-old wants to do. 12-year-old doesn't want to die at 25 just so they have a young face. We keep striving and we keep trying to better ourselves and heal disease so we get to 70, so we can be 70,
Mm-hmm.
70, 80, 90.
Yeah. And yeah, I think what some of my clients, they are psychologists or counselors, and they mention that people nowadays, especially younger people generations, they have a hard time recovering from their traumas. And let's make it clear, everyone has gone through some kind of trauma. Everyone, if you live in this lifetime, the scale might be completely different from person to person. It's true that some people have gone through a tremendous trauma, like this North Korean lady who they were able to escape. They have an incredible story to share, very deep trauma they have to go through. And some people didn't have to go through that kind of trauma, but everyone has had certain kind, some kind of trauma. And we learn to live through it, right? And I forgot what I wanted to say.
What I wanted to just bring up, and I don't think people are conscious of this, the things when I studied psychology that I learnt, or like, which keeps it very interesting. But one of the things I found most fascinating was our grandparents, or let's say great grandparents to be clear. So the brain is actually wired to recognize familiar faces. Okay, so our grandparents lived in a town, I don't know, like I don't even think so great grandparents growing up, there was no family car, or if there was a family car, it was only driven to kind of church or whatever. So most generations, all generations before our great grandparents, grew up seeing the same faces, right? So you walk around the town, it's the same town. Yes, you may travel, and that's a huge event, to travel somewhere. These days, our brain has to process new faces every day. Like every single day, we were not wired, our evolution over time never wired us for this. So even before you put in a stress like you're just experiencing, how does the brain cope with seeing a different face every day? And we wonder why, when iPhones are made, why people revert indoors and become more reclusive, because in evolutionary stances, we were never designed, or we're not designed yet. Obviously we evolve, but it takes thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years for the species as a whole to evolve. And that's just one aspect that's changed, but it's a huge one. And I never thought of it before. Like, we literally, from the beginning of time, were in villages. It was very, very unusual to meet a new face. It was like basically a shock to the system. Now, all day, every day, especially if you work in the city, and how long can a human do that wasn't wired to do that?
Yeah,
yeah.
My gene is shocked that I'm seeing this gorgeous blonde lady with blue eyes in front of you. Like, that's not in my genes.
Well, yeah, but that's true as well. In truth, in the school I grew up in, there was no different ethnicities in my year, except there was one Chinese girl. And this isn't me being racist or anything. This is me literally just seeing white people all day. And, my mum worked in travel. So from a young age, we traveled a lot, but I still didn't, it was still foreign, because it's like an adventure, right? You go somewhere like Fiji and there's Fijians there. They're not actually part of your life. When I went to America and lived for a year, that was very culturally different. No one in my school's parents were divorced. In the whole school, one child's parents were divorced in Australia. I went to America, 50% of the class, and we had no internet back then. And we're only talking about, like, this is 30 years ago now. Oh, it sounds a long time, but yeah, like that was a huge cultural thing. Is in my year, there was one Asian girl, and everyone else, we all look very similar, like culturally very similar when I think about it now. But then you go to America, and there was like a massive jump for me. And it's a lot easier to do as a child, but yeah, the brain is not wired. It was wired to basically see the same familiar face, walk down the same man owned the same milk bar, the same person owned the flower shop. You would go down and you'd grow up with your friends. You'd marry in your community. Now we're worldwide. This is a lot. This is a lot before you even put in disease, and we wonder why there is disease. If you're constantly like shocked or stressed, and we just haven't evolved. And the reason some people are very successful in doing that is because obviously that response isn't as impactful in their psyche and in their the neural pathways and their trauma response. But yeah, you get children these days are exposed to so much. Like, you're just online, they're seeing wars and all sorts of them. I was never even watched the news.
Yeah, two things I want to mention. So first thing, I do remember what my point was.
Sorry, I'll just put off there.
No, that was good. That's very interesting. So first thing I wanted to say earlier, saying that, emphasizing that we should be okay and happy to make mistakes and go through life, because in this lifetime with social media, it's so easy. When you see people, celebrities, they have so many, they would clean up their face. They would, they can modify so easy, right? So I think that's why, that's one of the reasons this psychologists and counselors, my clients who are saying that, they have a harder time to recover because they're sitting behind the screen. They're seeing, it looks like they're seeing the world, but they don't have much human contact, like real human contact. Before, when I was going to school, I had no choice but, be with my friends and go go to certain school, go to certain clubs, you know, and it's different now. So I just wanted to be, show up as a real me. This is me. It's not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be ever perfect. No one is ever perfect, but it's okay. I'm happy still, you know?
Yeah. And I like to think that I'm perfectly me. Like I'm with all the situations that have gone on, with everything that's happened in my life, I'm just perfectly me. And what more can you want? The other thing about all of that social media and the celebrities, as time goes on, obviously they're seeing more lines and they get more work done, is I think I've mentioned this before. I've been disconnected from social media twice. The first time was when I first got well and I lost a lot of my memory. There was 4 months of no internet, social media, television. It was just people, and usually the same people every day. So it was like a community. It was like we were meant to be. We're at a hospital. And then again, when I got FND, it was more almost a year and a half of no watching television, of no social media besides just playing music on my phone or seeing the people around me. What I noticed both times about getting online is seeing people is how all the celebrities look like aliens. So when I first get back online, everyone's face looks smeared across the screen. It looks so unbelievably distorted.
Yeah.
It's almost unwatchable. Like it's because our brain gets reprogrammed over time. The more you watch this, it now becomes our reality, to the point, I think I've mentioned this one before. So there's tribes who still live in like natural environments, I think in places in Africa where they're like mud built huts and all of that type of thing. There's a line experiment you do in psychology where you get a line, two lines parallel, and at the end of one line the arrows go outwards like that, and on the other line the arrows go inwards like that. And our perception in westernized society is that they're identical, the length of the lines are identical, but the line that has the two lines on the end which poke out, we perceive that line as longer. And that's true for all westernized people. And in African countries, they see the lines identical. They see the lines the same. It doesn't matter about those straight lines at the end. And that's because all the land and all the things they see every day are organic. So how their town and land is built, there's no straight lines. So our brain, this is back again about the plastic surgery and also how lines is, we have to use extreme line depth perception to navigate the environment that we live in westernized world, because it's straight lines. If you lived in Africa, you don't have, the brain isn't trained that way. So just like me coming on social media again, they would probably see white people in general as looking like smeared aliens, because they haven't been on mobile phones. And so that line, I learned in psychology, that line test is indicative of how much our brain it rewires all the time. And so that, like, in truth, when I think about those 2 periods of time where I was off social media and I'm more in nature and just local community, bliss. Like, although I went through horrible times, like, to be in that place, you're actually very conscious that you're kind of back in time, very conscious that you're in olden days type ways. And so I just thought I'd put that out there, that what we see is just being programmed. It's not reality. It's what we expect.
Sure. Yeah. It's so interesting, how, the world has changed so much thanks to this internet age. And I do believe a lot of people, older generations tend to think, oh, back then it was better. It's horrible where we are. But I always think this is the golden time of human being. And I'm not saying that I don't see anything that's going on. I was very much, especially when I was living in New York and Tokyo, I love news and what's going on in the world, and doing through some investment. I've learned what works in the world, and I am aware of it. But now I have I have a choice to turn off the TV I don't have at home and I can choose on YouTube what I want to listen to, what I want to expose myself to, right? So some people might think that I live in La La Land, but I prefer that way, you know.
But but this shows me how your mind works. If somebody can see something and see positive in it, where multiple people are telling you something negative, you're showing up to other parts of your life like that. And that's what I want for people is everything has a positive and negative connotation. But the more you work on seeing the positive for yourself, I'm not talking about being so disconnected it's harming you. I'm talking about what serves you in this situation is you'll turn up to the diet you want to have with the same attitude. If somebody comes and they're like everything is negative, you will self-sabotage what you're about to do, because you'll start to pick out all the negative things. And so it's worth seeing something huge. It's like AI is a lot of people like even my age, they're like scared of it. And I'm like, we have to embrace it's what the future's about to become.
Yeah.
Do you want to hate your future? You don't want to hate your future. You want to see how will this work for me? And quite honestly, is the only reason I say this, only reason I can do so many lives is because I keep throwing a whole lot of information at ChatGTP and it will template it for me so I can do more. And you just keep finding how things can help you in life. And, and yeah.
Yeah. So I should get going soon. But
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is, I guess our message is embrace ourselves. Everyone is perfect in their own ways, but no one is perfect in everyone's eyes.
I like that. I like that a lot. When you realize that, you can keep working on your perfect world,
Yeah, exactly. I'm so grateful, Skye, to
I'm
have.
so grateful too. And you enjoy your day. I'm glad you started off well you start off with persimmons and a sauna. What better way? You've manifested a beautiful morning.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening, and thanks for your comments as well, everyone. And thanks again, Skye. We'll see you next week.
You will. Bye.
Bye.